The following is the text of a 1962 brochure from the GDR defending, indeed boasting of, the Berlin Wall. It was published in English for foreign distribution. The document is not clearly dated, but I think it was published in February. What you should know about the Berlin Wall. Newspapers, radio, and television reports daily about the Berlin Wall in West Berlin in many languages throughout the world. They often speak or write of a state frontier or of a wall. It may be very difficult for you to form a valid picture from all these reports which frequently contradict each other. We want to help you do so. We tried to imagine what would be the consideration of a citizen of a foreign state if he wanted to gain clarity about the problem in West Berlin, and we would like to reply to these considerations. First consideration: where exactly is Berlin situated? A glance of the map suffices. Berlin lies in the middle of the German Democratic Republic, exactly 180 kilometers, 112.5 miles, to the east of its western frontier. A quite normal locality for the capital of a state. Only one thing is not normal at all: that a hostile, undermining policy and disruptive acts have for years been carried on from the western part of the city against the surrounding state territory. West Berlin Mayor Willy Brandt called West Berlin a thorn in the side of the GDR. Would you like to have a thorn in your side? We don't either. But Brandt even proclaims quite frankly, we want to be the disturber of the peace. Second consideration: did the wall fall out of the sky? No. It was the result of developments of many years standing in West Germany and West Berlin. Let us recall the preceding events. In 1948, a separate currency reform was introduced in West Germany and West Berlin. The West German reactionaries thereby split Germany, and even West Berlin, into two currency areas. The West German separatist state was founded in 1949. Bonn thereby turned zonal border into a state frontier. In 1954, West Germany was included in NATO. Bonn thereby converted the state frontier into the front line between two pact systems. The decision of atomic armament of the West German Bundeswehr was made in 1958. Thus, Bonn continues to aggravate the situation in Germany and Berlin. Repeatedly, the annexation of the GDR is proclaimed as the official aim of Bonn policy. Most recently in a statement of the Adenauer Christian Democratic Union, CDU, on 11th of July 1961. Thus did the anti-national, aggressive NATO policy create the wall which today separates the two German states, and also goes through the middle of Berlin. The Bonn government and the West German Senate have systematically converted West Berlin into a center of provocation from where 90 espionage organizations, the RIS, American Broadcasting Station in West Berlin, radio in American sector, and revanchist associations organize acts of sabotage against the GDR and the other socialist countries. Through our protective measures of 13 August 1961, we have only safeguarded and strengthened that frontier, which was already drawn years ago and made into a dangerous front line by the people in Bonn and West Berlin. How high and how strongly fortified a frontier must be depends, as is common knowledge, on the kind of relations existing between the states of each side of the frontier. Third consideration: did the wall have to come? Yes and no. We have submitted more than 100 proposals for understanding on the renunciation of atomic armament, and on the withdrawal of the two German states from NATO and the Warsaw Treaty. If things had gone according to our proposals, the situation in Germany would not have been aggravated, and consequently, there would have been no wall. Especially since 1958, the GDR and the Soviet Union have repeatedly told us, the West Berlin Senate, the Bonn government, and the Western powers, be reasonable. Let us eliminate the abnormal situation in West Berlin together. Let us start negotiations. Why did Bonn and West Berlin reject these proposals? Why did they, instead, step up agitation to an unprecedented degree before 13th of August? The wall had to come because they were bringing about the danger of a conflict. Those who do not want to hear must feel. Fourth consideration: what did the wall prevent? We no longer wanted to stand passively and see how doctors, engineers, and skilled workers were induced by refined methods unworthy of the dignity of man to give their secure existence in the GDR and work in West Germany or West Berlin. These and other manipulations cost the GDR annual losses amounting to 3.5 thousand million marks. But we have prevented something much more important with the wall: West Berlin's becoming the starting point for a military conflict. The measures we introduced in the 13th of August in conjunction with the Warsaw Treaty states cooled off a number of hotheads in Bonn and West Berlin. For the first time in German history, the match which was to set fire to another war was extinguished before it had fulfilled its purpose. Fifth consideration. Was peace really threatened? Indian journalist R.K. Karanija shall give you the answer to the question. He published a sensational report from Berlin in the biggest Indian weekly, Blitz, in which the world public is warned against the West Berlin powder keg. K.R. Karanija wrote, "It, the protective wall of the GDR, served the cause of world peace since it halted the advance of the German neo-Hitlerites toward the east, forced the world to recognize the reality of the division of Germany, and thus supports negotiation." Retranslated from German. If further evidence of the aggressive intentions of the West German government is needed, it is provided by the authoritative West German employer's newspaper, the Indusrikur, which regretfully wrote, exactly 19 days after 13th August 1961, a reunification with the Bundeswehr marching victoriously through the Brandenburg Gate to the beating of drums. Such a reunification will not take place in the foreseeable future. Bonn heads were really haunted by ideas of such a victorious entry. That would have meant war. Sixth consideration. Who is walled in? According to the exceedingly intelligent explanations of the West German Senate, we have walled ourselves in and are living in a concentration camp. But in that case, why are the gentlemen so excited? Obviously because in reality, their espionage centers, their revanchist radio stations, their fascist soldiers' associations, their youth poisoneers, and their currency racketeers have been walled in. They are excited because we have erected the wall as an anti-fascist protective wall against them. Does something not occur to you? West Berlin Mayor Brandt wails that half of the GDR, including the workers in the enterprise militia groups, is armed. What do you think of a concentration camp whose inmates have weapons in their hands? Seventh consideration. Who breaks off human contacts? Of course, it is better for many Berliners not to be able to visit each other at present, but it would be more bitter if a new war were to separate them forever. Moreover, when the GDR was forced to introduce compulsory entry permits for West Berlin citizens on 23rd August, in the interest of its security, we at the same time offered to open up entry permits in municipal railway stations in West Berlin. In fact, we opened them and issued the first permits. Who closed them by force? The same Senate of that Mr. Brandt, who is today shedding crocodile tears about contracts being broken. The GDR has maintained its offer. If we had our way, Berliners could visit each other despite the wall. Eighth consideration. Does the wall threaten anyone? Bonn propaganda describes the wall as a monstrous evidence of the aggressiveness of world communism. Have you ever considered it to be a sign of aggressiveness when someone builds a fence around his property? Ninth consideration. Who is aggravating the situation? The wall? It stands there quite calmly. Former French Premier Reynaud said already on 19 August 1961, according to the UPI, the sealing-off measures of the East Berlin government did not increase, but lessen the danger of a Third World War. In reality, the situation is being aggravated by persons who play at being the strongman on our state frontier, who are turning West Berlin into a NATO base, and daily inciting West Berliners against the GDR. Municipal railway cars are being destroyed, frontier guards attacked and brutally shot, tunnels dug for agents, and bomb attacks made on GDR's frontier security installations. Does that serve relaxation? One must really ask why attackers on the GDR state frontier in West Berlin are not subject to court prosecution as in other states. The Brandt Senate even presents its respects to the provocateurs. 10th consideration. Is the wall a gymnastic apparatus? The wall is the state frontier of the German Democratic Republic. The state frontier of a sovereign state must be respected. That is so the world over. He who does not treat it with respect cannot complain if he comes to harm. West German and West Berlin politicians demand that the wall be removed. We are not particularly fond of walls either, but please consider where the actual wall runs in Germany. The wall which must be pulled down in your and our interests. It is the wall which was erected because of the fateful Bonn NATO policy. On the stones of this wall stand atomic armament, entry into NATO, revanchist demands, anti-communist incitement, non-recognition of the GDR, rejection of negotiations, the frontline city of West Berlin. So make your consideration to pulling down the wall by advocating a reasonable policy of military neutrality, peaceful coexistence, normal relations between the two German states, the conclusion of a peace treaty with Germany, a demilitarized free city of West Berlin. That is the only way to improve the situation in Berlin, to safeguard peace, a way which can, one day, also lead to the reunification of Germany. The Wall says to the warmongers, "He who lives on an island should not make an enemy of the ocean." Decide in favor of the recognition of realities. Don't join the row over the wall. Perhaps you don't want socialism. That is your affair. But why should we not come to an agreement jointly to refrain from doing anything that leads to war and do everything that serves peace? With the fall of the Soviet Union also came the fall of the Berlin Wall. East Germany was reunited under capitalist reunification with West Germany. Around 2008, 52% of East Germans believe that the free market economy is unsuitable. 43% said they wanted socialism rather than capitalism. And this study also has some quite telling quotes. Thomas Pivot, who was a 46-year-old IT worker from East Berlin, said, "We read about the horrors of capitalism in school. They really got that right. Karl Marx was spot on. I had a pretty good life before the wall fell. No one was worried about money because money didn't really matter. You had a job even if you didn't want one. The communist idea wasn't all that bad." Another one, Hermann Heibel, who's a 76-year-old retired blacksmith, stated, "I thought communism was shit, but capitalism is even worse. The free market is brutal. The capitalist wants to squeeze out more. Monica Weber, a 46-year-old city clerk, stated, "I don't think capitalism is the right system for us. The distribution of wealth is unfair. We're seeing that now. The little people like me are going to have to pay for this financial mess with higher taxes because of greedy bankers." Ralph Wolf believed life would be better under capitalism, but he stated, "It took just a few weeks to realize what the free market economy was all about. It's rampant materialism and exploitation. Human beings get lost. We didn't have the material comforts, but communism still had a lot going for it." Another study, roughly a year later, also found that a majority of Eastern Germans feel that life was actually better under socialism. Such is what was lost by East Germaners, and such is capitalism. For more information about East Germany, I recommend the book The Triumph of Evil by Austin Murphy.